What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. Dr. Mike Axler here, professor of exercise science, PhD in applied human physiology, 60 plus time marathoner and ultramarathoner, and performance coach. Today, this is going to be a little bit of a follow-up video to one I made a couple of weeks ago on how to concurrently train, so training for both endurance as well as strength. This one today is how to combine running and strength in 1 week without killing recovery, but from the angle of looking at it from the runner's standpoint. So a lot of folks who spent a lot of time in the gym lifting over the past 5, 10, 15 years are now just getting hugely into the running craze, and they want to be a hybrid athlete. They want to do the high rocks or hydrox competitions, whatever they're called, and they don't have too much of an issue going from full-on lifting to also running. But a lot of folks who are just straight up runners seem to have more issues going into lifting. And there's a lot of mental battles, so to speak, with respect to I don't want to get too bulky, I don't want to get too strong, I don't want to have sore legs because my running splits are going to get slower. So I've trained a lot of folks who are runners who want to start lifting, and I've trained a lot of lifters who want to start running. And I want to merge the two together into making this beautiful hybrid athlete concurrent training approach. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how can statistically runners also get into lifting. So the common problem of why most runners struggle with strength training, so number one is going to be how soreness and fatigue from the lifting can ruin your runs. And the thing I can tell you with this is that if you are a runner who's done their first leg day and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sore, I can't move for 3 or 4 days, that's fine. That's your muscles going through this very positive homeostatic mechanism, this adaptation to get stronger and more efficient and bigger. Those are called DOMS, or delayed onset muscle soreness, and that goes away. So by your second leg day, your third leg day, your fourth leg day, the amount of soreness you feel decreases to the point where after you're hitting a squatting session or deadlifting or some lunges, you're not even really sore the next day. But a lot of people, a lot of runners more specifically, struggle with this idea of soreness and fatigue from lifting, and they don't want it to ruin their runs. The second common problem is too many hard sessions can equal burnout or injury. And a lot of runners love to do the intervals, the tempos, the long runs, which are very systemically taxing and fatiguing. But then when they also start incorporating the compound lifts, the bench, the deads, the overhead presses, the squats, their body can't take a whole lot of it. So that's why today we're going to focus on how to train accordingly. Number 3, a huge common problem is that a lot of runners won't do their strength training because they skipped it due to time, right? They're just like, oh, I wanted to run an extra few miles here or get an extra run in, so they just skip strength training in general. Number 4 is no clear structure, so poor progress in both, right? So they think oh, I'll just run a whole lot on this day, I'll lift a whole lot on this day. And I know I personally go through this too when I'm running. I have this identity of a runner where I'm oh, I'm going to qualify for this race and I'm going to run this ultra. And then later on in the day when I'm lifting, I'm oh, I'm going to get huge and I'm going to start bulking. And it's these conflicting parts of your brain. One wants to be fast and one wants to be strong. But again, please be patient, because in today's video, we're going to try and figure out how to mold these two together in a nice, intelligent periodization approach. And the last common problem is people get stuck by this idea of more is better. And this mindset always backfires over time, because you can push it really hard with the endurance training and you can push it really hard with the strength training, but you can't do both. You're going to need to find some happy medium. So how most people try and solve these problems is that they'll randomly stack strength and runs on the same day, and we'll detail how we can do easy runs with lifts on one day and maybe just intervals on another day. But a lot of people try and do them in either back-to-back sessions or the same session. And we talked about this in a past video, that If you're going to go to the gym and say, all right, I'm going to run first and then lift, or lift first and then run, we all know that the first modality is going to be strong and focused, and the second one is going to be less than advantageous, and you're always going to be just trying to hang on. The second way people try and solve these problems is that there's no periodization or intensity balance. So they go way too hard, way too soon, and they get injured, they get sick, or they just burn themselves out. The third typical approach, which also does not work, is a lot of folks try and do long runs after leg days. They try and do like the long zone 1 or zone 2 cardio for some active recovery after a leg day, and we just know that you're going to have a poor long run. You're going to have much worse recovery from your leg day, and we don't want that. And what ends up happening, two things here, is we have this overlap of high stress sessions. So if you're doing too much on the running and too much on the lifting, that leads to catabolism or breaking down of muscle. Not only are you not gaining muscle, but you're actually breaking down muscle because you're not having enough calories, you're not recovering sufficiently. So there's not going to be any positive adaptations. Okay, so let me please explain to you scientifically of why these strategies typically fail, and then we'll talk about a solution to this. So we know that we can't compete with recovery debt, right? So our central nervous system, aka our brain and our spinal cord, can only take so much acute metabolic damage. So it's like, you know, when you're sick and you have like a fever, and like the idea of getting up from the bed and just going downstairs and joining your family at dinner, even if they didn't wanted you to be next to them while you have a fever, the idea of like sitting up straight is just like too much for you because it's like you're just so taxed, you're so tired. This is a very similar thing too. If you are really running 5, 6, 7 days a week and trying to lift 4, 5, 6 days a week, very intense, your entire central nervous system gets down regulated, or like the volume goes down so you can't push as much. So your central nervous system needs time for adaptations and needs time to rest and recover to make long-term gains. And if your energy systems compete for space, you know that you're going to have a limited resource for running and a limited resource for lifting. I ran 20 miles yesterday, and then I went to the gym like only a couple hours after, and just the idea of me actually pounding out some heavy weight on like the leg press, on the lat pull down, the bench press, even just in my mind, I didn't want to do these things. When it comes down to intelligently periodizing all of your endurance training and all of your strength training, just remember you have a finite amount of energy throughout the day that you also have to give to your friends, your family, your job, your health, your hobbies, right? So you can't put it all on one thing. So big picture here on why these strategies typically fail is that the poor sleep, the increases in stress, the over high or the overzealous amount of volume, probably not enough calories, absolutely just tanks your hormones, and you're not going to get the best possible results. But fear not, please let me offer you this much smarter training approach on how to combine running and strength more intelligently. And again, these are for the runners who want to start incorporating lifting. So if you can, just run on 1 or 2 or even 3 days of the week, depending on your starting point. If you're a Boston marathoner, maybe just taper it back to 3 or 4 days a week. If you're a beginner, 1 or 2 days a week. And you're going to split this up into 1 easy session and 1 harder session. So maybe a long run, which is nice, long, slow zone 1, zone 2, and then a speed session, like a tempo or an interval. With the lifting, after easy runs, you can lift, or on separate days, you can lift and do full body strength training 2 to 3 days per week. And for recovery, do your best to sleep 7 to 9 hours per night, such that you won't need caffeine to wake up the next morning. For a little visual suggestion of the weekly schedule, we can see here on Monday, we're going to do a nice easy run, zone 1, zone 2, and then a lift later on in the day. If the endurance is going to be your main goal, do the run first. Whereas if strength and hypertrophy is your main goal, do that first. But the main thing is, if you can separate these sessions out by at least 4 to 6 hours, that's going to be best. On Tuesday, completely take off or just do some active recovery. Go for a couple of short walks throughout the day. Lightly cycle on a stationary bike, walk in the treadmill, nothing too crazy. Because on Wednesday, you have to do your only speed run of the week. You can do intervals, you can do a tempo, you can do a progression. So really, really, really focus on the intensity there. Thursday, this is going to be one of your full body lifts. I'm talking bench press, squat, deadlift, overhead press, a lot of bilateral movements, compound core stability, really, really strong work. Friday, we're back to another easy or recovery one, zone 1, zone 2. Nothing crazier than that, but you're still getting the cardiovascular and pulmonary benefits. Saturday, go for a long run around zone 2, but really kind of stretch that thing out, increase the volume of the run while keeping the intensity low. And then Sunday, take another active rest day where you take frequent walks or you cycle nice and lightly. Okay, so why this works for a lot of people and why this may work for you. So by training this way, you'll be able to gain strength without sabotaging endurance. And here we have recovery windows already built in, which means less fatigue day to day and then week to week, which means increased linear performance over time. So each week you can add a mile or one extra rep on the interval or one extra set on bench presses. So again, we can just go up and up and up. And when you start to feel a little bit tired, you go back down and you go up and up and up and back down. That's how periodization works. And lastly, with this approach, the weekly progress will prevent plateaus, which we do not want for both the mental and the physical part of it. So we can just continue to question, we can continue to grind, we can continue to grow and progress. And obviously, this periodization approach has been proven by elite hybrid athletes and it is backed by science. This is what's known as concurrent training. If you want to go look it up for yourself, this is the very skeleton or basis of this. Awesome. So with that, I do want to thank you for tuning into another episode. I do hope you enjoyed and learned a thing or two or three. If you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. Scroll on down and subscribe to both my Instagram and my Substack, where I do much deeper scientific dives into nutrition, endurance, strength and conditioning, physiology, longevity, all the rest of it. So I'm going to go run, and then later in the day, I'm going to go lift, and I hope you will too. And I'll catch you all in the next episode.